Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. I have a time of 7:09, and we're going to begin tonight's meeting. Before we begin the meeting, I wish to welcome everyone to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We began tonight's meeting with an executive session, so we ran a couple of minutes late, but we're starting tonight's meeting. First item we have on our agenda, 7 o'clock meeting, is Market Basket Spirits LLC, DBA and Market Basket Spirits. Is somebody here for that? Please come to the floor and introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Aida, McDermott, Quilty, Miller & Hanley, 28 State Street in Boston. Joining me this evening is Brian McCullough. He's the proposed manager of record. So we have a request for two items. The first is a change of manager on the alcohol license. Just briefly by way of experience, Brian has been with Market Basket for 31 years. Started at the age of 16 and worked his way through the ranks. Up to the store manager and store director. He has experience in the liquor industry. He has been a supervisor in the last couple of years at this location at MB Spirits at 10 Main Street. He's familiar with the rules and regulations of this board, the ABCC and the laws of the Commonwealth as it pertains to the sale and service of alcohol, and he is also tip certified. The company has no history of violations. Brian runs a tight ship, and he expects that to remain the same. So if you have any questions specifically for Brian, he's here. And then I'll just jump into the second part, and we can maybe open it up at the end. Second part is a request for a change of officers directors. The licensee entity is MB Spirits LLC. There's no changes at that level. It is the parent level. It is a MB Spirits LLC is wholly owned subsidiary of Demoulas Supermarkets Inc. So we're requesting a change at that level for a appointment of a new director and the resignation of another director. So James Carlton is being removed. It's Terry.
Terry Carlton. Yeah.
His formal name is James. He goes by Terry.
Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
okay.
Sorry.
And he's as being added to that is Michael Keys as a director. These are changes that happened a couple months ago. There's no changes in the ownership and no other changes to the day-to-day operations. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right. All right, at this time, I'm going to open it up to the board. Mr. Russo, want to begin?
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ryder?
All set, thank you, appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mackey?
Thank you. I have no questions. Packet was complete, and Brian, glad to see that Market Basket is continuing to take care of their own. So I always love to hear the success stories of people that came up through the ranks and made it. So congratulations. Thank you.
The whole?
That's a very complete package, by the way.
It's a-
Great job on that. I only have, you answered the tips one, and you have experience in liquor sales, and you've had no infraction. The only question I have is the certificate of unemployment. The certificate in good standing and/or tax compliance is under MB Spirits LLC, but the certificate of compliance for unemployment is under Demoulas.
Yep, so as the parent entity, they're the entity that hires all the employees. We explain this to the ABCC. We've done this before where it's parent entities or affiliated entities. So I don't anticipate having a problem with that, but we'll deal with that directly with the investigators.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And good luck to you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no, thank you. The package was complete. You answered our question. I know this gentleman from seeing him down at the store many times. So I appreciate having somebody that knows the location. And one thing I do love about the change in that store is that it seems like the atmosphere is definitely a little bit lighter, a little bit more friendly to residents, and you guys take it serious of checking IDs and all those things. I know you take that seriously, and that's appreciated by this board and our police department.
Great.
So I appreciate that. So everything seems to be complete. All right. At this time, I'll listen to any motions on the matter.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of manager, a change of manager for Market Basket, for MB Spirits.
We'll take this in two votes, okay? So I got to change manager. Do I have a second on that? So second by Mr. Ryder? Okay.
Yeah, James.
Oh, Jay, I didn't hear him, I'm sorry, I apologize. So I got a motion by Mr. Holland, second by Mr. Mackey. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, and now we get the change of officers and directors.
I'll make a motion to approve the change of officers and directors for MB Spirits LLC.
Motion by Mr. Ryder.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, good. Mr. Russo.
We didn't coordinate this evening.
Yeah, there's like a little echo going back and forth. All right, I got a second by Mr. Russo. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations,
Appreciate
gentlemen.
your
You're all
time.
set.
Mr. Chairman.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next thing on our thing is a Pride event. We got a one-day entertainment license. Do we have anybody move forward on that, or Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything on this event?
Probably, no, just that it's pretty standard. They've done this on an annual basis, but I didn't know that nobody was going to be here today, so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I have none.
Okay. The one thing I would like to see if we can do in the future, I know this is something we're going to vote on and probably approve, but we've been publicizing it, and now we're voting on it. So,
Yeah.
in the future, if we can try to get it in a little bit early, that'd be great. All right, I'll listen to any motions on the matter.
Make a motion to approve Pride event June 20th, 2025 from 5 to 7 p.m.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr.
Second.
Ryder, second by Mr. Mackey. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. The next thing we have is show cause hearing, liquor store violation, Shell Food Mart. Do we have anybody on this matter?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, before we begin, so I just learned about an hour before this meeting that Attorney Grammer was going to be appearing. So I wanted to verbally disclose that he is currently doing some work for me in a personal capacity. It's completely unrelated to town business and will not impede my ability to fully and fairly address the matter before us.
All right, thank you.
Good
Okay,
evening,
continue.
Attorney William Grammer on behalf of EKS Corporation, which owns and operates the Shell Food Mart at 365 Main Street. And with me tonight is Christina Sideropoulos.
Hello, Christina Sideropoulos, owner of the petrol gas station at 365 Main Street.
We also have tonight, Mr. Chairman, her sisters and co-owners of the company, Evelyn Sideropoulos, Anna Sideropoulos, and we also have our store manager, Kristen McDuff, area manager Kristen McDuff, and the store manager, Catherine Bowles, is here tonight. In the event the board wants to hear from any of those individuals, they're here for you.
All right, at this time, I'm going to ask the police chief to come forward and discuss his findings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This on?
Oh, it's on. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So we've done 20 compliance checks so far. We've had one violation. We're going to do more. As you know, the partnership with the community, with the businesses is important to us. We do a lot of work with ensuring that they have notice. We've actually sent out training because we want them to know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. And in these cases, what we do is we send an 18-year-old into a package store. They grab a piece of alcohol, could be a six-pack or a beer or something like that. They go to the clerk and they just try to buy it without being asked for ID. It's that simple. If the establishment asks for identification, that person leaves and it's a pass. If they don't ask for identification, then the individual purchases the alcohol and they walk out and they meet a detective and then we determine that that's a violation. So in this case, that is what happened. So, and I believe you have my recommendation.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
Do we have any questions on the board? The board members have any questions for police chief? All right,
Thank you.
okay. So you've heard the police chief's, what happened. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why and what this how this happened?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm going to make a couple of brief introductory comments, but then I really would like you to hear from Christina Sideropoulos, and she can describe the policies and procedures that they had in place at the time of the incident, as well as what they've done since the incident to try to improve and prevent this from happening again. They do take very seriously the sale of alcohol to minors. It's been something that they've been working on ongoing basis to try to make sure it doesn't happen. The individual that sold without requesting identification, Mr. Owen Fuller, he was hired in February 2025. At the time, he did sign an employee handbook. All employees are required to review and sign the handbook. And there's a specific policy that they're asked to review and sign regarding the sale of beer and wine, as well as tobacco and the other company policies. He did sign both of those. There's also training that occurs with the employees from the store manager, and they're reminded about the policies and procedures. And the register system requires that when alcohol is attempted to be purchased, that the birth date of the individual be entered. And apparently, Mr. Fuller just went ahead and entered a birth date that was over 21 in order to have the register allow the sale to go through. So that's clearly a violation of EKS's company policies and the handbook, and he was terminated for that a couple of days after the incident. So he's no longer working for the company. There's plenty of signage in the store that Ms. Sideropoulos can walk you through, and so I guess at this point I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted to start off by saying that we do take this very, very serious, and I wanted to thank the Tewksbury Police Department because they did come out and they did tell us, came out on 2 instances and did tell us about the operation that they were doing. So I did want to start off by acknowledging that and thanking them. They do often keep in touch with us. I've done the training with the police officer here. The police officers had like a webinar. I did that a year ago, and they had a virtual link this past year that I also took. So yeah, we do have a lot of what I believe to be a lot of things in place to prevent something like this from happening. We do have signage throughout the whole store that says that we check all IDs. One was even provided to us by the police department. I do have photos of those throughout the store and on the front door of the store that we do have that displayed clearly for everyone to see. We also had in place before this incident a secret shopper that comes out to the store every single month that spot checks our employees. That's a third party that they'll send someone in and do kind of exactly what the police officers did. I do have the most recent one from last month that they did actually check the employee that had this violation, and he did pass on that check. So I do have that here if anyone wanted to see that. That's the report from the third party secret shopper. So I also have, before, again, this incident took place, I have that we had him sign off on our employee handbook. We have a specific section that he acknowledges that we check everyone's ID. It goes into detail about our POS system, what we can and can't accept as valid forms of identification, the times of day that you can sell alcohol. It goes into detail of which days you cannot, holidays that you cannot sell alcohol. And then we also have a separate document of rules and regulations that additionally goes into more detail that he signed off on as well, that specifically has a list just for beer and wine, another one that's for tobacco, another one that's for lottery, anything that has restrictions, that they do sign off that they were trained. In addition to that, we also have monthly reminders of what's on those documents that the managers and I go through with him, well, with all of our employees and him previously, just as a reminder each month, because this is our second offense, and I didn't want to be in this position, to be honest with you. I didn't want to have a second offense. And then we also had the managers signing off that they did train all the employees. I was in there too, training all the employees. And again, that the police came out and they did remind us. They told us, and at the time that they came in, the employee that did this violation was there. So going forward, we do have a few additions that we made just to make sure that this never happens again. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the TIP certification. If you guys are not, it just goes into detail and has video clips and scenarios that could come around and how to handle each scenario. And we now have every single employee take it. So I have every single employee taking the TIPS certification. And that will be a standard along with when they get hired, that this will be part of their entry into that position. We are also having them sign off on a detailed, I have an example here if you guys would like to see it as well. Sign off. Every single month. They're gonna have to sign off that they were explained every single detail that was on this and that they understand it and they just sign off on the bottom. And this is gonna be every single month. Just to reiterate the fact that we did go over this with them. I did recently at this meeting just get another great idea that we're gonna implement is just spot checking on cameras, just matching the receipts to spot checking on cameras. So that's something that we're going to implement. I just got that very good idea today here from the police. So yes, and I'm open to any recommendation that you guys have, anything that you guys have gathered from all your experience doing this for so long. If there's anything that you think that I could do better or could implement, I would be very, very happy to take anything that you guys request of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the board members. Mr. Holland, I'm going to begin with you.
Okay, I just have a few things. The part that shocks me, you received a letter from the chief. He hand-delivered it to your manager,
Yes,
and you still failed.
yes, I know.
I just don't get that.
I do as well.
And for me, I owned a liquor store. I know what it's like. My recommendation, you could have everybody sign every piece of paper, take all the tips course, but if you don't ask for the ID, it doesn't work. My recommendation to you is anybody that buys cigarettes, beer or wine, you card them, no matter what the age.
Yes,
They do it down at One Stop. I don't have a problem with it, you know, but this really upsets me because it's the second violation.
I agree.
You can do all the employee training, but if they don't pay attention, it's useless. So again, my recommendation is to card everybody, and I think we should make that part of your renewal of your license, that you card everybody. Because I'm still in shock that you get the letter and you still fail.
Yes.
You know, and it's only within like a week or 2 weeks. You know, so what happens after the inspections are over? Do you go back to selling to the minors again? You know, because my recommendation for the penalty is not going to be light. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mackey?
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate the candor. I appreciate the effort you've clearly put in. But it's not working. So there have been violations on liquor, there have been violations on tobacco, and you asked for recommendations. I would probably invest in one of the ID scanners, so it takes away the ability to actually manually enter a date. It's a bit of a pain, but it does make that, takes that option off the table. Again, as was mentioned, all the policies and training in the world don't matter if somebody's circumventing the system. And at the end of the day, as the owner proprietor, the ball falls to you. So I appreciate that you are clearly making an effort. I think the tip certification will hopefully be helpful, but I would definitely look at getting a scanner to take that option off the table. Given that this is a recurring violation, we've had other violations on tobacco products. I'm not inclined to be lenient either, but I historically have deferred to the chief's recommendation, and that's my intent here as well. But I do appreciate the effort. I think we just need to find that next step to close the loop so that we don't have another recurrence, because I don't think you want to be back here again. Thank you.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, so I agree with my colleagues, what's been said at this point, up to this point. The fact that this is the second violation, I guess my concern is, and I hear you, I'm not 100% convinced what's at stake with your license. One more offense and it can be revoked entirely. And I agree, all the paper, so if I heard you correctly, please, correct me if I'm wrong, you went through training post the incident with all staff, not just managers?
Yeah. No, so we do monthly training for all staff.
Anything
So
since the incident, though?
No, but from before.
Okay.
And now since the incident, I'm having them sign off each time, again, a new rules and regulations sign off. So they were trained on it every month.
Right.
And they did sign off on like a little paper that, they were told. But this is a more detailed understanding that you were signing off on every single thing. So they did get trained monthly.
Sure.
Before the incident. So that was happening before. It's the same training now. They're just re-signing off. It's on a more detailed understanding that they were trained on each specific item that they're acknowledging.
And I understand that when they're signing that, they're owning that piece, that they understand what they've trained on, but I also can appreciate the fact that they're just signing it to sign it. It's the same piece of paper they sign every month, right? And I get it, that falls on them, and ultimately you can choose to terminate them. It's an employment at will. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Mackey, on the scanner. It takes, I hate to use this reference, but it does make it idiot-proof in that sense, right? It prevents someone from bypassing that. The fact that this is, I understand it's the second liquor violation, but the fact that it's the third violation as a whole in the last, 36-month window, again, just raises the concerns that all the things that you're saying that you put into play, unfortunately, aren't doing the trick. And I think you recognize, I know you recognize that. You wouldn't be here, sharing all that with us if not. So, I'll defer to the rest of my colleagues at this point too, to see how, what the chair and Mr. Ryder have to say. But I would agree with my colleagues that I tend to agree that we should, take the most action at this point, just given the set of circumstances, unfortunately.
Mr. Ryder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'll echo my colleagues. We appreciate you coming in and taking this serious. Just to follow up, after the first violation, what did you do for training after that one?
So we made that, I know that you guys said about the scanner, so we have it that you have to enter in a birth date into the register. So it doesn't let you go further. We did implement that monthly reminder. And I believe we did a more extensive, in-depth of exactly what they need to be trained on, along with signages. And I also want to talk to Patrick Holland. It does say in our handbook that they need to ID every single person, no matter their age, if they're 90, you know, I made that very clear with them, that even if they look like your grandma, ID them. Yeah, that's what we have done. And I'm just trying to take it further, and I understand all the things that you guys are saying, that it's just paper. I don't want to make excuses for it. I'm just struggling to find a different way. We have a secret shopper, you know, we have zero tolerance for any sale to underage people. I understand the risks that are involved with that, with alcohol, like to a minor. That's huge. So we do have zero tolerance for it, and that's why this employee was terminated. We do have a secret shopper that goes around. You know, we haven't had any instances, but if he were to fail, we do have a zero tolerance. So we have him sign all the handbooks, so we could just fire him. He was very much aware that that is our policy and that's what is expected of them. And we did get that good idea today of spot checking the cameras by time stamping the receipts of a sale. So going through every week and seeing a receipt and seeing the date on the receipt and the time, and then going to the camera and checking it via camera. But that was given to me today, that idea that we're going to implement.
I would say, because this is your second violation, and I'm sure when you received your license in town, you received this documentation that states that, you know, the third offense, there's, you know, potential revocation of license. I think from a business owner, I think it would be in the best interest that the loss of a license versus whatever expense it is for a scanner, that is known to work. There's no way you can get around that. If they're presenting you an ID that it's a false identification, you're doing your job. And I think that is, you know, if it was me and it was my second offense and the third offense could be loss of license, that would be the avenue that would go in. I would not, you can go with the cameras, but I think from a business owner, you know, we want to keep businesses in this town. I know there's a value to that. It provides a service to the town. It also economics to your business. So I think it would be in the best interest to do that. And because it is second offense, and I tended to follow the chief's recommendation. So he's the one that, you know, unfortunately has to deal with this across the town. And they do a great job with it. They do a great job with notifying everyone that we're out doing this. And it's on the business owner to really implement that with their staff. So I will turn it over to the chair, but I would listen to the chief's recommendation. Thank you.
I would like to see that document that you had that said the 30-day that they're now signing off on. Can I see a copy
Yeah,
of
if we
that?
could, why don't we just submit the various documents that she.
Yeah, I just want to read it
referred to, or
before I
Which
make
one
my
would you
comments. I
like?
just want to give a quick look at it. The one that you.
That they're signing every month?
That they're signing every month. I just want to see it.
Going
Just
forward.
Yep, right here. Can I come
Yeah,
to you?
yeah, bring it right up to me if you could.
I think that's the other one. This is the one that has all the examples.
Okay.
We'll accept all the documents, but I just want to see that real quickly.
So this is for
Thank you.
sign, there's 2 pages.
Yep. Thank you.
I also gave him this handbook.
Well, you have them signing off on the.
Yeah, they also signed.
Okay, well, I appreciate these documents, but I've also worked in the retail business, working with kids for many, many years, running a restaurant, hiring kids and working with them. And when I say kids, 20-year-olds or whatever it may be. And I can see the sincerity of that you're trying to get people to do what you ask them to do. And the frustration is sometimes you hire people and they just don't listen. And that can happen once. This is happening multiple times. What I was looking for on this document was that they're signing this, and I'm just telling you, as a 20-year-old kid that would be signing this, they're just going like this. They're gonna scribble their name. I would like to see something on here that says, if you sell, you will be fired.
Okay.
So
That's something that I'm looking for on here. It talks about why and what they're supposed to do, but it's all the basics. I'd like to see something that, like you said, if they're signing something in bold print saying, you will lose your job.
Yes.
Because that's the only thing that's going to, soak into somebody that's working there. And are they willing to give up their job to sell something to minors?
Yes. I will add that on to that rules and regulation thing. I believe it is in the handbook, that term.
Yeah, but
I
like you
will add
said,
it-
this is what you're having them sign every month.
Correct, I will add it
And
to
like if
that.
I sign this every month, I'm not even reading it. It's like, they have to, but it reads the same thing. It's almost like, yeah, I got to sign this once a month, and you're actually reading it, so they're going to do it. They're like, okay, it's just a formality at a point. And is that really going to get people to stop selling without something of them knowing that they're going to lose their job?
Yeah. If I could add.
Yep.
We are not just handing it to them and having them sign it off.
No.
I would just like to clarify, we are going through all of that with them, and then we're having them, because before we were going through it with them, and they were just signing a piece of paper saying that they were talked to. So this was just my idea of an extra step, that they're signing off specifically that they were talked to about all that. I can make it clearer and big bold that you will get fired. I will add that.
And like I said, and my colleagues are making recommendations that you have a scanner in that.
Yes,
Once again, you could have a scanner in the building. If they don't ask for an ID, what good is that scanner?
yeah.
So if they're not scanning and they just sell the transaction without running that through, there's another issue. And that's why, like, you can talk to somebody till they're blue in their face. I've dealt with 20-year-olds for many, many years, and I'm dealing with them now. So trying to talk to somebody and trying to get it through their head that this is not just a job for you, this is someone's livelihood, and this is somebody's business, that they're going to lose their license. And if something can happen if you do this, and you're putting people's lives at risk by doing it, that's something that we have to take it very seriously. The police chief does not want to go out or the police department doesn't want to go out and find people. They want to walk in and they want to make sure that everything's safe and everything's going through. That's why they're doing it. It's not to punish local businesses, it's to make our community safer. And the fact that they're doing it, I appreciate it, and they make the recommendations, but like I said, we can make recommendations. We can all come in and say, you're filling out forms, things like you had a secret shopper come in every 30 days. Now, you mentioned that the last one that the person came in, have you had any during those 30-day ones that they came in? Did anybody else, did you find somebody at fault, and did you make any, did somebody come in during a 30-day sale that wasn't the police department, somebody tried to sell and you fired that person?
No, they all passed.
They all passed on all of them that you got?
On all the ones, I can go back a year. I mean, I don't have that with me, but I brought in the one that he was checked, just the
Yeah.
guy that was in violation. And on that, you can see 2 other ones, and they passed.
2 other
2
stores.
other stores.
The concern, I appreciate that, but the concerning part is, you're saying that you're sending somebody in every 30 days and they're passing all the time, but yet when the police department sends somebody in, it fails.
I
That
agree.
doesn't jive.
I agree.
So there's a disconnect in there someplace. You're telling us that you're doing it, and every 30 days, somebody's coming in and checking everybody, and every single time they're not selling, but multiple times when the police department comes in, even after notifying you,
Yeah.
once again, you failed.
I agree.
So there's something's happening that just isn't working, and I don't know, like I said, you can sit with our police department, you can talk with public safety officials to try to come up with recommendations, but it's, right now, it's just not working, and that's why we're here.
So, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board, the scanner certainly a great idea. And I think the way that works is when you scan the item and it recognizes it to be an alcoholic beverage or tobacco. If you don't then scan an ID, it won't allow the transaction to close and prompt the person to pay. So you can't even get to that stage. So I believe that you have that capability or can get that. And that's certainly something.
Yeah.
Well, you're selling other merchandise in there other than alcohol. So if you were, somebody must be able to ring something into that register, is there a way to?
So when you take the scanning gun and you're scanning all the various items,
Yeah.
bag of chips, soda, once you scan something that's alcohol, it recognizes
requires
that.
it without-
And it won't let you go
Okay.
forward until you scan the ID.
I
And so
just want
that's
to make
the
sure
system that I
that's,
think.
yeah, there's no way to go around it.
And
That's-
that then takes away your concern about, well, they can sign all these papers, but if they don't ask for ID, they have to ask for ID at that point. And so,
And I'm happy to implement that. We will implement that, and if you guys would like some type of report that we're implementing it, I'm more than happy to.
Well, I mean, I can feel your frustration as well with this. I mean, I know that you have probably all the best intentions, and you're trying to, things and somebody doesn't listen to you, but unfortunately,
That's,
it's not, you're responsible.
I
And
agree.
that's where it ends.
I agree.
And that's where it is. And we're not, once again, we're not trying to punish local businesses. We're trying to support local businesses, but unfortunately, these type of things are detrimental to our community. And so we have to take this seriously.
yeah. Yeah, I don't mean to come here with excuses.
No,
None of these are excuses. I'm just trying to show, I've been trying my best to make sure we don't sell to minors. I understand, I have a younger sister who I would, if she got hurt or something, someone sold to her when she was underage, I would be very upset. And I would hate that to be our store. And it's just very upsetting that it's happened again. And I'm sorry about that. And I know that that's not an excuse. And I'm just going to try my hardest that it does not happen again, not just for a police check, but in general. I just don't want to these are not excuses. None of these are excuses.
And that I appreciate. I mean, we have a lot of people that come in and say, it wasn't my fault, it was my employee's fault, it was this, it was that.
Yeah.
Very few people come in here and say, I'm sorry, I got to do a better job. So that's something I appreciate that. It's just not something that would discount. I mean, I can feel it, that you take this seriously and you've tried your best to try to do this, and unfortunately, you get employees that just won't listen. But obviously, you're hiring employees that won't listen, so maybe there has to be something that be done
Yeah.
that where you have to have a better hiring or whatever it may be to bring the people in that take this seriously, because it's not once, it's not twice, it's it's made up three times in alcohol, but it's 3 times that we've had
Yeah.
this in here, and it's something that's repetitive and it's just not working, and so we have to make some kind of action on it.
Yeah, I think the scanner ID would be
the only
good.
other thing I would just add, and maybe you can address this a little more, but is the effort to hire, employees that are not, kids or in their 20s. This particular individual was in his 30s. He was interviewed and they thought that he was somebody that would take it seriously. He didn't.
Yeah.
The area manager and the store manager both have 30 years' experience in retail. They actually both worked together previously at Walgreens. And the store manager dealt with sale of alcohol at one of the Walgreens stores. And so they do bring some experience and some maturity, I guess I would say, to the company in terms of future hirings and training. So I would just point that piece out as well.
So Chair, just one more thought
Yeah.
on that. When it comes to hiring, again, you mentioned that Mr. Fuller was in his early 30s. I understand, and you never know, right, until they're actually working for you, who that individual actually is. I'm going to make an assumption of that. Are you doing reference checks, background checks on individuals that you are hiring?
Yes, yeah, we have a whole, I didn't bring in the whole packet, but they go through a whole bunch of information, they give us their ID.
Yep.
We do full checks on our employees. And I've talked to him many, many, many times. He was a great guy besides this. I saw that he passed, last month. I was like, great, we're ready for this. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely shocked that we didn't. So again, not an excuse. But yeah, I agree with you on that.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other comments from the board? Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of, I guess some people have, do you have anybody else? No? All right, at this time, I'm going to open it up to the board for any recommendations.
I would make a motion, after having reviewed the report from the chief of police, that we follow his recommendation and what we've done historically, which is a 7-day suspension of the liquor license with 3 days held in abeyance.
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
I got a second by Mr. Ryder. All those in favor?
All right, what day will be served?
So this
Dates?
is a 7-day.
Yes.
7 day, but what date did that have to be
Dates, we have to
consecutive?
we have to put the
They
consent.
do have to be consecutive, yes.
Yeah.
So July 4th till July, this 4th? July 1st to July 4th?
So if it's 7 days, so it would be July 1 through July 7.
Right, but the 3 days held in abeyance, it would be 4 days, correct?
Oh, yes, thank you. Good catch. I would say that it would be June 23rd through June 26th would be the motion.
Okay, so I have a updated motion by Mr. Mackey. Is that the second?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well.
Thank
So
you.
the town manager's office will reach out to you to talk about your license and, how we'll turn it over and what needs to be done.
Okay, so they'll go through, like if I need to remove things from the premise or?
What's that?
Will they go through what I have to do for that suspension, like removing anything?
Yeah,
Yes,
you'll
we'll
be
go
contacted by the town manager's office and what needs to be done.
To the town.
Okay,
Move over.
okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief. Right, at this time, we have residents. Do we have any residents that would like to come forward? All right, seeing none, we're going to go into new business. We got MCOG presentation at home in Greater Lowell. Would give you names for the record, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kelly Leinema. I'm the Deputy Director at the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments.
Chris Hayes, Housing and Economic Development Program Manager at NIMCOG.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may through you, just a quick question and a raise of hands. How many of you are familiar with NIMCOG? Ish, yeah, okay. So I just wanted to quickly explain. So the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments is one of 13 Massachusetts regional planning agencies. We are largely funded through federal and state dollars, and then we also receive a small community assessment from each one of our 9 communities. So we serve Lowell and the 8 surrounding towns. We are here tonight to share an update on At Home in Greater Lowell. At Home in Greater Lowell is a regional housing strategy that we have been working on for the last year. Just as a background, back in 2022, NIMCOG began work on its own strategic plan. And as part of that effort, our executive director and then some of our staff went around to people in each one of our communities our town managers, city manager, some of our elected leaders, municipal staff, residents, and our legislative delegation to really understand from the perspective of each one of these communities, what are the greatest issues? What are their biggest concerns? What are they wrestling with the most? And that would then go on to inform our strategic plan. One concern was shared by every single one of our communities, and that was housing. I know housing is a difficult word to talk about sometimes, but really what was the most concern was the high cost of housing. And so we decided at that time that we wanted to initiate a locally driven planning process because this was an issue that was coming from each one of our communities. We didn't want to do this because of a state requirement. We didn't want to issue mandates. We really wanted to understand from the perspective of everyone in our communities, what are the issues that they're seeing and how can we work together to collaborate to develop solutions that make sense for each of our communities. We really wanted to respond in a way that fits the needs of each of our individual communities. And so this effort is really about helping each of our communities take the lead in their own way on housing, rather than being reactive to outside mandates or one-size-fits-all solutions. So we really want to support each community in shaping these solutions, and that's what At Home in Greater Lowell is really about. Chris is going to give a presentation on what is basically our draft report. That draft report is not out for public review yet. Part of the reason we're here tonight is because we wanted to meet with you and understand what are your concerns? What about these goals or strategies? Is there anything that's really resonating with you? Or is there something that's emerging from these priorities as a priority for Tewksbury? And that's something that we want to incorporate into this phase 1 report before we release it. So this is an opportunity for you to weigh in. And so with that, I just want to introduce Chris Hayes, and he'll walk you through some of the key data and those regional trends, and then we'll have a brief time for discussion.
Thanks. I don't know, is the presentation able to be on the screen or you have a handout of it?
Do we have, how do you have it?
It looks like you have it on a piece of paper, so I can just say next page when I do that. That might be easiest. And thank you, thanks Kelly, and thank you Mr. Chair and members of the Select Board for having us. We're really excited to share and discuss this regional housing strategy. And if you can look at the agenda, pretty basic, but we first want to talk about, again, why we undertook this and why we came to some of the strategies we have, including some of the key data that we talked about. We want most of the time to hear what you think in terms of what goals or what challenges that are housing related resonate for the town of Tewksbury, so that we are able to tweak things and make sure that this is really a plan that represents each of our 9 communities. And then finally, we'll talk really briefly about what comes next. And as Kelly mentioned, this process started about a year ago, and that's the next page, a regional approach to a regional issue. And we heard that through a lot of what Kelly mentioned in terms of municipal leadership. We also actually heard it from the business community through such agencies as the Middlesex 3 Coalition and the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce that were asking us what a regional approach to housing challenges are. And so we kind of, just a couple of years ago, we looked for grants. We finally were able to kick off in early 2024. And some of the early findings we found, first of all, on that next page with the bar graphs, we found out that a lot of the household growth is driven not by population growth, but by households getting smaller, aging, more seniors living alone. And so that population, although the population is growing a little bit, it needs a lot more housing units that are smaller, more accessible, and that are affordable. We have seen that there has been a consistent decline in vacancy rates. That's the next page, where generally speaking, a healthy rental vacancy rate is about 8%. A healthy sales vacancy rate is about 2%. And they were that way about 12 to 15 years ago. And they've gone to about 2.5% for rentals and nearly 0% for sales units, meaning when a house comes on market, it's almost immediately sold. And that's a pretty common trend. This is for the entire region, the graph that you see on that page, but it's pretty common in every single one of the NIMCOG communities. And so, of course, we have seen that correlated with the increase in housing cost burden, that is the number of households that pay more than 30% of their income on housing costs. There's now a little bit, roughly about a third of the households in the entire region are housing cost burdened, and 14% are severely housing cost burdened. That means they pay 50% of their income on housing costs. Anecdotally, what we've heard from interviewing dozens and dozens of people over the last year is that this really is affecting all of us. However, in the real short term, those are seniors struggling to stay in the communities, and labor shortages for critical workers like police, fire, teachers, healthcare, some of the median income occupations. But then in the long term, there's some fear of young adults leaving for less expensive areas, and we're beginning to see that in the data. There is a fear stated by the businesses that they may relocate due to the high costs of living and therefore the high wages they need to pay just to attract and recruit labor. And then finally, there is a fear that that would increase the burden on the remaining residents for to fuel the economy and for the municipal, basically pay taxes. So we learned that over the last year, and a lot of how we've developed strategies to address those challenges is through conversations we've had in 3 major summits and a number of surveys and a number of one-on-one interviews, literally hundreds of officials, whether they be housing experts, residents, elected officials, and appointed officials like planning board members and so forth. And so the page that says the result, and it's got 1, 2, 3. So the data and strategies report is what we are trying to finalize right now. We're calling that part 1. And then part 2 is going to include a storytelling program. So basically outreach, including elevating stories of folks on all sides of the housing spectrum, and a municipal toolkit that will help the 9 communities work towards implementing these goals and strategies in their own way. Why we're here tonight is because we really want to make sure we get number 1 right before we start number 2. There's a handout that I think Kelly just gave out. It's that one right there. It has 6 goals and some associated strategies, 17 strategies under each goal. And that's our draft goals and strategies and what we're really interested in talking about. Just as a kind of a high level, there's a housing production goal, which is really about changing the types of housing we build to be more diverse types and price points for that changing population. Using being efficient and deliberate about housing development to conserve our resources and to make use of walkability and transit. Housing stability, which is really that classical affordable housing, and how can we make sure that there's enough subsidized units for those making 80% area median income, so really kind of that cost level of those healthcare workers and teachers and whatnot. But also the 4th goal is housing security, and that's more about folks that are lower on the income spectrum that might be at risk of losing their housing, becoming homeless, and trying to reduce and prevent homelessness, really. The 5th goal is about fair housing and engagement, and so that goal is about fair access to homes, but also about, community engagement, making sure that we have a positive conversation about what we really want housing to look like, and that all members of the community can be engaged in that. And outreach to those members, making sure that they know about programs and affordable housing programs that are available today. And then finally, we recognize that all of this costs money. Infrastructure is an absolute need, whether that be transportation, water, sewer. And so the 6th goal is about increasing the resources through new funding and new partnerships to make sure that the resources are available to meet those goals. So maybe the most important page is the penultimate page there, which is what we're asking today. And so we want to confirm what kind of housing challenges you're hearing about in Tewksbury today, and really, most importantly, which are those goals that I'm talking about? What resonate with you in terms of things that we should concentrate on for the strategies? And then finally, with all that in mind, would you support continuing this conversation, participating in some of the goals and actions as we begin to move towards implementation? And I'll have one last slide page, which is what we're planning to do. We will definitely work with the town manager to share the finalized version with data and strategies. There's a couple final municipalities that we have to do these conversations with, and then we'll make some tweaks, and then we'll be ready to share. We will absolutely want to regularly communicate through that part too. That includes implementation toolkit. And then finally, if you will have us, if you don't mind, we would love to come back to share and talk about part 2, the toolkit and implementation guide when it's ready. So that really is all of it. So we would both want to hear your feedback, but also if you have any questions for us.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mackey, I'm going to begin with you.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the effort on this. I remember, I think it was 22 when this started, when you guys came in and pitched this, and we were supportive of it. I'm a fan of the various services you all offer, and I'm interested to see what the outcome of this is, because a housing production plan for Lowell is going to be very different from a housing production plan for Tewksbury. So when we're looking at that regional approach, a lot of your member communities are probably going to have varied challenges. And I mean, just looking at this one slide where you had the impacts on vacancy rates, where you talked about the 8% is the desired and the 2% for sale rate. I struggle to see, and I'm hopeful that your report can kind of shed some light on it for me, how those are maintainable in the long run, because again, Tewksbury, we don't have a lot of developable land left. I know a lot of residents, myself included, do not want to see Tewksbury become a city. There's not an interest from the residents that I've spoken to in seeing massive, large-scale developments again. That being said, I also have I'm fortunate enough to be related to a significant amount of our elderly residents in town, and the multiple family members over the age of 90, some of whom do live alone by choice, and understand the challenges that come with that. So I am really interested to see what comes out of this and how you all are able to kind of figure out that regional strategy. That's really all I've got right now. We understand that there's a challenge. We actually recently just did a project, or working on a project with a developer for doing senior housing. I actually think you guys might have been involved in that early on when we were looking at options for what to use the site for. We also need family housing. How do we do that without massive developments and the limited land we have left? So those would be the questions that I would pose to you all to see some sort of answer in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holland?
It's a lot to digest in just a short meeting. The housing production plan, I'm actually looking for construction people or people that the town can tie to develop underdeveloped properties so we can use CPA funds and stuff like that. Do you guys have contacts or list of contacts of developers who will work with your organization and the town?
So one of the strategies that we actually are looking at is identifying an adaptive reuse plan. And so this would be a way of inventorying kind of all of those underutilized properties and developing that list, right? So understanding what are the properties in our communities that our towns in the city of Lowell are interested in having redeveloped for housing or mixed use? And then how can we connect them with opportunities, not just for builders and developers, but also to financial resources that ideally would offset the cost of redevelopment and then allow those homes to be available at a lower price point that people who live in our communities right now can afford. Because I don't know about you, but I look at my own home, I couldn't afford the sales price of it today. Like I couldn't move back into my home if I had to buy it. So that's one of the things that we're really interested in is providing those connections between like opportunities for redevelopment with people who can do it in a way that reflects what our communities want to see.
And the reason I asked that question, because we're not builders,
No.
you know, and that's what we're counting on you people to get us in touch with the people who are.
Yeah. I'd like to also say there is, first of all, we do have really good relationship with some of the nonprofit developers that provide affordable housing and connect with they have their preferred builders and constructions and tradespeople. But we do want to take it a step further, and that's actually Strategy 6.1, which is a greater Lowell Housing Supply Accelerator, which probably is meaningless unless we explain it, which is basically finding a coalition of builders, financiers like the banks, and both for-profit and nonprofit developers that are willing to work with communities to build what the communities want to see and find ways to accelerate the housing that we want to see with those builders. So I would say we don't yet have the direct connections with builders, but we do with kind of the people who put the deals together. And we want to, through this strategy, improve that so that we can link those actual builders to the communities.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Russo?
Thank you for the presentation. I guess maybe, you asked a couple questions in your presentation. And so, there we go. I'll maybe just start by saying, in terms of what I'm hearing from residents, I think, there is some frustration maybe. Just generally speaking, I think people want choices. I think people, especially in Tewksbury, they don't want to, we don't want to lose our identity as a community. You hear that a lot, and I appreciate the statement about, we're not here to do mandates and things like that, and we'll put that aside for now. I think from my standpoint, sort of what resonates, people want choices and options, and it's not to me just low income for families, low income families. It's people with kids that are starting out. It's seniors that are looking to downsize. It's working families who just can't reach that price point but they want to stay in the town they grew up in. So there's a lot there. I guess what I'm curious about a little bit from my perspective, though, you talk a lot about the different strategies or the different goals here, and you specifically mentioned funding and partnerships. I guess, can you just talk a little bit more, what do you envision for that? What does that look like to you? And again, I appreciate this might not necessarily be 100% complete, but just curious, because I think funding is a big part of this, obviously, and how do you envision that working?
It's challenging, definitely. The three major strategies we have are, one of those is that accelerator, and that's more of a partnership element. Yeah. The other two are funding. One is funding the home side, funding the building home side, which is an idea we got from the state in terms of creating a guarantee program which leverage support from more local banks that provide riskier loans, and generally those risky loans are smaller developments. So we don't want to see, except maybe in some appropriate places in some of the municipalities, for the most part, what we're missing are, let's say, duplexes or triplexes or those type of call them missing middle, but or maybe small cottages even.
Gentle density.
Gentle density. But it's some of that housing choice where it's small, but it's a smaller unit, but it's not bundled together in a building of 100 units, let's say. But because those are small, they're risky. So to encourage that type of development, we could develop a fund for that. So that's one area that we're looking at for funding the development. In terms of the infrastructure, what we've seen as probably the two most critical barriers right now are sewer and electricity, believe it or not. I didn't know that until we started studying this. And so what we've found, though, is that so far we don't really even have consensus on what a potential solution is. So we can't chase federal funding or state funding. There is some state funding available for large-scale sewer. That's kind of a rotating loan program. The federal funding, we don't know right now. We don't know what the federal situation is, but we always want to be ready with shovel-ready projects if something comes up. And so you can conduct a study and an engineering study for relatively small dollars so that you are ready to jump on those potential opportunities. So those are the two big ideas that we're considering, but we're also open to any other small things.
And I think one other aspect is the consumer side of things, right? So Merrimack Valley Partnership.
Housing Partnership.
Housing Partnership offers a first-time home buyer program that is probably dramatically underutilized. And so one of the things we're looking at is under recommendation 3.3, looking at other programs. So there are communities or there are regions across the United States that offer bigger down payment assistance programs, or they offer those programs to people who make a moderate income, not just low income. So trying to find ways to support people who want buying a home. Home ownership is it is probably the single greatest opportunity to build wealth in this country. And so how do we avail that to more people? So looking at ways to kind of recalibrate what those first-time home buyer programs look like, that's on the consumer side is going to be an important element.
I think, so maybe the last thing I'll say, and before I turn it back to the chair, is just zoning. And, I guess from a whole, when I think about the goals and the strategies and everything you're saying makes sense to me. It does. Conceptually, it really makes sense. But I think from a zoning perspective, like the zoning has to kind of match that a little bit too, in terms of the needs. So, and maybe it's here and I'm just not, seeing it, because again, as to my colleagues' point, I'm not a builder either. So I guess maybe that would be the one point of feedback I would just say is maybe, how would that work into this too? And
that's a really good point. It's something that's in 1.1, but that's like a lot of nuance in when you talk about zoning, and zoning is always town meeting's favorite subject. So how do we do zoning in a way that's not like looking at an overall big rezoning, but like how do we be more surgical about zoning that is reflective of each of our communities? So kind of getting into that is what we're looking at in phase 2, which is understanding out of this overall deficit of housing that we have, in order to get the right market conditions, how many homes does that actually mean per community, and what type of homes? Dunstable is not going to have a 400-unit apartment building, and that might not be right for Tewksbury either. So how do we achieve some of those goals in a way that fits with the surrounding context? And how can zoning be applied strategically to do that? Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rada?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I probably have talk about this for hours. Zoning is a critical component, and to do what you're asking, that's spot zoning. And if you look at some of what's come out of some reports out of the state, they want to do away with single-family zoning, a traditional single-family zoning, and go with multifamily zoning, 1, 2, 3, 4 families, all in the same neighborhood. How does that work? That may work in Lowell, that might work in Lawrence, that might work in the gateway cities, but when you get into the suburbs, how does that work? Then you get into lot sizes. Tewksbury's, we have an interesting town, how it's broken out. We have South Tewksbury, we have some very small parcels. And then with the new zoning, you have to have an acre of land to build. Then you come to the north side or the west side, you have the larger parcels. So that's another thing with zoning, and you start to, again, it manipulates it. And then land costs. Massachusetts, especially in New England, your land costs, when a developer is building, they're building to maximize their return. So the building of the traditional 1970, 69 to 76, 78 structures,
Yeah.
those were the single-family homes that were allowing first-time home buyers to buy. And those are gone. And to get a developer today to ask them, we want you to build and I've asked. I sat on the planning board and I've asked. And they looked at me and they said, no. Why would I build today's market? Why would I build a development of, say, $475,000 to $550,000 homes when I can build $900,000 to $1.5 million homes, and those are selling?
Yeah.
Because there's still a market for that higher-end home. There's a market for that middle home, that's what I call that middle. It's not the affordable unit,
Right.
but it's the mom's a teacher, dad's, a machinist, they have 3 children. They're going to, some of the kids are going to have to share a room. That mindset has to change a little bit. Not every kid needs a bedroom. But I think that mindset has to change to be able to be successful and for housing stock. It starts with zoning, but zoning, you get into that spot zoning, and that's difficult when you're trying to change what communities have put in place to have single family. It's been tried with overlay districts. In my opinion, it's not a successful option. To the builder, it is. So those would be interesting. Land costs, as you see, that's why one of your points you talked about, they're moving out. And they're going to, it used to be southern New Hampshire. Now, I think that line is probably past Londonderry, heading north, or Hollis in that way. So, or Western Mass is where you're starting to see where the land prices are affordable. So that would be really the interesting to see how you could do that and even subsidize a builder to do that. But the difficulty with that is the subsidies are tied to some of the new requirements, all electric home.
Larger developments.
Yes, larger development. We don't want a 450 unit development. We'd like a 25 unit development that has a sidewalk that someone can buy that starter home, or that home becomes for the senior that is downsizing, that opens up their larger home. So it's going to be interesting to see what you come out of this. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I won't get too deep into responses on zoning, but I think one thing that part of the reason we're doing this now is because we're trying to identify solutions that maybe work in, like, where in our communities do they want to grow versus preserve, so that we're not responding to, like, statewide requirements to have the entire town be one type of zoning, right? So if we can be more proactive about where we want to introduce, where some of those changes are acceptable and what kind of changes are acceptable versus what areas we want to preserve, that is potentially a way of demonstrating to the state that we're responding to a shortage, but we're doing it on our regional and local terms.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I think, I'm hopeful that the state will listen to that methodology, because I think right now the methodology is we need as many units as we possibly can have in the parcel that's existing. How many can we fit here? Hence the MBTA zoning. Increase the density, let's fit as many as we can in there, but then turn around and say the impacts to the community are not there in the school system and in our infrastructure. We know those individuals that are in the field know that is an impact. So it's a balance with those two. Thank you, though. I appreciate and looking forward to the outcome.
All right. I've had the opportunity to volunteer and be on a community development board for almost 30 years. I've seen what works and what doesn't work. I've seen what goes on in multiple communities around us. And that's where I think you really have to begin. I think, I find it kind of comical that, I mean, I know there's new, like you're sitting here in these seats. If we went back 25 years ago, there was somebody else that was sitting there. They'd be coming here telling us the priority is home ownership, that there's so many rentals out there, there's so many condos out there. That's what it was 25, 30 years ago. That we're going to give these fundings to, you can own your own home, and that's the priority, and that's what we want to do. That worked. Everybody owns their own home, so we have 80-something% home ownership. Now it's a problem because there's no rentals. And so it kind of goes back around in circles, and I've seen it in all kinds of things. Like I said, I'm not against development. I am absolutely not against housing. I just don't like that it's poorly planned. And when we're going to build something, you have to take the impacts to the businesses and the residents. Like, we're talking about how this affects each town, but it has to be the whole picture. I've seen what happens when there's overdevelopment in certain areas, where you would think that if you built a lot of housing in an area, all the businesses around there would thrive. And I've seen it go the absolute opposite way, where they built tons of housing near existing businesses and all the businesses closed down. And the reason that happened is no one's going there because of the traffic. So that has to be taken into consideration. And then you'll have somebody come in and tell us, well, they can all walk to these places. Massachusetts is not the hiking capital of the world. I mean, we can build all the bike and ped accommodations that we want, but honestly, if you're building housing, there's going to be one or two vehicles in that property that you have to take into consideration. And when we talk about these toolkits and how we're going to talk about, getting strategies to getting transportation and improvements, I'd like to, where is that funding coming from? There doesn't seem to be a priority from the state government to sending stuff to the communities to take a proactive, if you want to develop an area, maybe you go out and widen the intersection first. And then you can say, well, we're going to develop now. Instead of building and then saying, now we're going to figure out a way to handle all this traffic. And that's the issue that we're in. I mean, I know you're not here to talk about the MBTA communities, but I find that it's a broken system, that they're talking about putting the most housing in an area that's already impacted by a lot of housing. It's like, those are the most expensive places to live within 25 miles of the city. And because there's a bus route or something like that, I think that, I mean, like they're asking us to put 1,200 units or zone 1,200 units, but yet nobody's going to be taking that bus. There's going to be one or two vehicles minimum in all those units. And how do you deal with that impact? And if all those cars are on the road and you can't get down there, people will avoid that area like the plague, because they're not going to put up with it. It's just like, I'm going to go someplace else where there's less traffic. Those are the things that we're up against. And just having like a plan of how you can build something, but also put some infrastructure improvements ahead of time, or at least offer, listen, if you're willing to work with us and build additional housing, we can guarantee you, not we can apply to be on a tip and maybe we get in, maybe we don't. And because honestly, from Tewksbury's perspective, we don't get a lot of them. I mean, we get our perspective, we get our funding, but we haven't had like a major widening infrastructure project in this community. Like, we worked and we tried to, like, we brought a hospital down on Main Street. They built a nice big housing development. We asked for a MassWorks grant. We wanted to get that whole area, widen that intersection. Yep, it's great. Yep, we had the governor here. We had Jay Ash from Economic Development. And everybody come in. Yes, it's a great idea, great idea. We never saw the money. We built it. We did our part. Brought something in that was a benefit to the community. We built housing. Tewksbury has constantly, over the last 10 years, built housing and housing and housing, and we don't see like any appreciation for that when we do our due diligence. We've looked at try to build family housing, we looked at build senior housing. We're looking at our numbers and we see the need for housing. The problem is we can't afford to continue it as a community to keep building and having residents being so upset that their taxes are through the roof. And that's what I hear a lot of time when I'm talking to residents. If you keep, a lot of people moved here, and that the reason they came here is because they want to have some sort of open space, a greenery, you know, an area. So a lot of people came here from Somerville, Medford. We have Meet the New Residents, and we, every couple of years, we do that and we bring them in. And I always ask them the same question: why did you move here? I moved here to get away from the city. I moved here to raise my family. I moved here to have some open space. I want some fresh air. I want to see the stars. I don't want to listen to tractor trailers driving by my house every day. I don't want the congestion, hustle and bustle. I want that feeling. And so that's why they kind of came up here. Now it just seems like it's moving toward them. So we're getting pushed further and further north. And so when you're talking to residents up here, if they say, if you continue building and you keep approving all these things, we're going to New Hampshire. And then I'm like, where are you going from there, Canada? I mean, it just seems to be, how far north can you go that you're, you know, that you're being pushed out. So at some point, you got to kind of push back and say, listen, we're in favor of housing. We're in favor of building affordable housing. We need it. We need affordable senior housing. We need affordable family housing. But the residents can't afford to keep paying for schools. They can't afford to keep paying for the infrastructure impacts that's happening. I'd like to see, when you're putting something together, how there's a commercial and residential program that works together, that you're bringing in like some taxes that are going to help offset some of this housing. And so, I mean, it's a tough challenge to have, but in the area that we're in, if there's you're having it that we can't find another place to build because it's so desirable. So that's why the costs are through the roof. But yet it doesn't seem like the state is putting any impact into providing any rapid transit to the areas that are affordable, where if you were able to build something and have like a train that would get you from Springfield to here that much quicker, and bring where you could build a house for $400,000 instead of $1 million, no one's going to go there because it's out of the way and it just doesn't provide the services. So what they're doing is, the state's plan is, let's just jam it in the areas that we already are jammed. And it just seems to be a poor plan. People are going to resist it, they're going to fight back, and without any guaranteed money, like, you know, if somebody came and said, hey, listen, we're going to give you, and we're going to open this lane to a 4-lane roadway, and we're going to do all these type of things if you do this, I think you'd get a lot more buy-in from the community. But if you're saying, build it, and then we'll figure it out, we've been doing that for too many years. We've already done it, and traffic is horrendous, and it's hard to deal with. And like I said, unless we get flying cars sometime soon, I have no idea how it's going to continue. And that's what we're up against. I mean, I'm not trying to put down the plan of what's going on, but like I said, I've seen so many things over the last 30 years of, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to, and it's like, it has to work. So you have to get the buy-in of the community. And if you went around and you walked around and talked door to door to the residents, and if you said to them, hey, we're here to see if you are in favor of building more houses in this community, what do you think your response would be?
No, I mean, we did ask you to share your concerns, and so.
Oh, I know, and I'm being honest.
I know what the answer would be, yeah.
So the honest answer, and I get we need it, and we need to make it more affordable, but honestly, building in this community is not going to make it more affordable anytime in my lifetime. I can't see prices going down 200, 300,000 anytime, no matter how many units you build. It's going to still stay high because, as you know, my colleague said, land is valuable. You're this close to 495, 93. You're in by the city. People are going to move here, and they're not going to be willing to sell. So mandates and things like that are things that people are just going to argue. But like I said, there has to be some sort of way where we can work together and we can find ways to have a partnership and have a voice. And a lot of the communities feel like they're not having a voice. We can talk about it, I appreciate it, but like when you say we're looking to find, ways to fund the infrastructure, it's just words to me, because I just don't see, like, where is that funding coming from?
Absolutely, and I hear that the housing necessarily might not be the issue, but the impacts are, and how do we mitigate the impacts through increased infrastructure, whether that be transit or road improvements. Yeah, and I think we do have a number of, so first of all, as the MPO, we do have, we work on the TIP, right? So the transportation funding for those listening at home that comes from the federal government through the state to our region. And we definitely can consider housing. I don't want to step on your toes, Kelly, because Kelly's the transportation manager in addition to deputy director. And then the other thing is that we can, as a regional planning agency that does talk with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities often, which does provide some of those new housing works grants that is for infrastructure related to housing, we can definitely see and talk through how this plan might be paired with some of those funding sources. I don't know if you...
No, I would just add that one of the things that we do offer for our communities, and we actually have helped them with, is applying for grants for the infrastructure, not just state grants, but federal grants. And so we just help Dunstable with that, like applying for construction, for design funds, because design funds are often the biggest barrier, right? And so that is why I believe that NIMCOG is in the right position to do this kind of planning, because we do connect with federal transportation dollars, with the MPO, with a lot of we're sort of like an intermediary for our state agencies. There are no easy solutions. And I think the one thing that we do recognize is that there is also a cost to doing nothing. And so we're trying to think about what are the proactive solutions that no one's going to love everything. Right? But I think what I'm hearing from you is a really good list of concerns, and you're echoing what you're hearing from your community. And so this is something that we can actually take back as we're looking at completing phase one and incorporate these into how we're talking about what these recommendations are.
I appreciate it. Mr. Russo is going to be a new representation to MCOG, so I'm sure you'll get to know him very well. And when he'll be over there talking, and you'll hear from the rest of our board as well. But like I said, I wish there was an easier answer. I wish we could say, you know what, we're in favor of this. This is great. I just, without the funding, I'm not in favor of any of it until we have some transportation guarantees. I mean, our delegation and lawmakers go up and they vote on how they mandate things for us to do, but they don't mandate. I'd love them to say, as part of that, we're also going to add a transportation improvement increase to all the communities that are affected by this. If they went out and they said, all the communities that are going to be impacted by this, we're going to increase the funding by 50%. And so all that funding is going to be available, that would have been a much easier sell. You don't hear any of that because the money isn't there. And so when we're with a small town, and it comes down to when the money becomes available, you always see it's going to go to the bigger cities and towns around. We're going to get some. I'm not saying we don't get any, but we don't get enough that makes it justifiable to build to the need that they want us to build. And so if you want us to continue to build and take it on the chin, it just, the residents have had enough. And that's where we're at. And so as the elected officials from this area, my job is to listen to them and to make sure that we're arguing for their best, fight forward. And like I said, they love their small town feeling. They love the open space. And when you're talking about putting 3 or 4 units on a parcel that used to own one house, it's not going to be an easy selling point. I know we need more affordable housing, but without any transportation improvements or any kinds of funding guaranteed to come to a community, it's hard to say, if you build it, maybe you'll get it. And it just, that's not a great selling point going forward. So that's my perspective on it. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any other comments? Mr. Town Manager, would you like to have anything?
No, it's just intriguing about the whole gentle density discussion, and, it's too bad that that wasn't part and parcel of the MBTA Communities Act, because I think that would have made that legislation less of a hammer, and made it easier for communities like Tewksbury to do something, but it's an interesting discussion.
Well, thank you very much.
No, I do appreciate you coming forward.
Great
I mean,
presentation.
like I said,
Looking forward to the,
yeah.
It sounds like you're open to continuing a conversation, which is
Yeah.
our goal for this presentation tonight is we want to keep talking about this. So I appreciate your openness
If you
and
could
your
bring,
honesty.
if you could bring some of our concerns and maybe get some action on that, I'm more than willing to listen and talk. So, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want us to stay up here for the SEDS conversation?
Yes, it's just, the next thing is the application do you want to just briefly describe that? Because I know it's a reapplication. We did it in 2021, and now you're doing it again. Chris, do you want to just go through that?
Yeah, sure. As the economic development program manager, I work with the United States Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration, the EDA. And the EDA provides grants for economic development. That could be infrastructure. It could also be soft infrastructure like programs and workforce development and so forth. And they offer a program called they offer a designation called Economic Development District, and that opens up the region to additional grant opportunities that maybe only Lowell was privy to because Lowell has a deep need, but recognizing that the region works as a unit allows us to extend that eligibility. It also provides access to a planning grant of $75,000 a year, roughly, that we can apply for that helps us with economic development efforts like business retention and recruitment for vacant stores and things like that. We applied in 2021. We got through some initial stages. The EDA recently asked us to update our application with new letters because, of course, all the select boards are the city council, everybody's new. So update that with new votes and letters and update our demographic information. And they're going to try to grant us that designation this year. So that came to us just a few weeks ago. So we we would be happy to answer any questions about the designation or about the application process.
So as a point of clarification, it does require a positive vote for all the participating communities, correct?
That is correct.
And it requires a signature of the chairman of the board.
Yeah, attesting to the vote, basically.
One question. I have no problems with this. I know we did it before, happy to do it again personally. But this letter does say that it was a public hearing. So did we publicize this appropriately, or do we need to wait until our next meeting to do this?
I don't know if it's required to be advertised as a legal public hearing. Do you know, Chris?
No, just as a, agenda 48 hours in advance public meeting. If it used the word hearing, you can vote to adjust it to say public meeting instead of public hearing.
I may have to go back and look at the verbiage on that. That was just what jumped out at me when I read through it. I was like, does this need to be publicly noticed beyond being on the agenda? So that was my only clarifying question. Thank you.
All right. All set? Somebody else?
all set.
All right. Well, I'll take a motion from anybody on this matter.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter from Mr. Curran for the application of Economic Development District.
1 second.
Need a motion by Mr. Ryder, second by Mr. Holland. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
It does say meeting. I stand corrected.
3 seconds.
Okay. We're going to take a 2-minute break while we get the area cleared. Okay. The next item on our agenda is approval of donation to Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. So I see that we received a correspondence here. The Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee has received a $250 grant from Tarasella Mission of Congregational Church for the purpose of purchasing woodland shrubs to be planted along Pinnacle Trail. Do I have any comments or recommendations on this?
I'll make a motion to accept the $250 donation with a letter to the church thanking them for their
I'll second that.
donation.
So I got a motion by Mr. Hall and second by Mr. Russo. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. And the next is we have a Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee donation of benches. The Open Space Committee is pleased to have the opportunity to place 2 donated benches on town land, one at Long Pond and one at Shawsheen Launch, 2000 Whipple. These benches were disposed of by the housing, and a volunteer will clean and spray paint the metal and get them ready for these locations. So do I have any comments or recommendations on this?
Motion to accept the benches, the donation of the benches, and follow up with a letter as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Ryder, second by Mr. Russo. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Okay, next thing we have is board and committee discussions.
Give me a moment, I can get this
Yep.
deck up here.
Denise, you want to come forward for? Yeah, come on. You can have part of this.
Why is it doing, there we
With the record show, we have Denise Graffio, our town clerk, joining us. Thank you.
Good evening.
Alrighty, so this is a output from the 429 discussion that we had and Mr. Russo's motion to put this all together. So spent the last few weeks working with the town manager's office, doing some research. I know a lot of the output came from the town clerk's office, so thank you for all the efforts on that and continued efforts. I put my consulting hat on for this. I am not a expert in municipal operations, but I just follow a standard consulting practice for this to kind of put together a deck, starting with what is the purpose. So purpose of this deck is to provide an overview of current challenges in town committees, recommended improvements, emphasis on structural fixes and support. And one of the things I really want to make sure we hammer home throughout these discussions are recognizing that these are volunteers that are putting their time to making our community better. And we want to make sure we're giving them all the tools and making sure we have clear expectations of what is required of them to serve in those capacities. For context, committees consist primarily of resident volunteers. There's been a recent review that started in May. Again, that has been led by the town clerk's office and town manager's office. And we've identified a few recurring issues. It was more of confirmation of the issues that we had previously identified. Those issues are gaps in training and compliance for required training, communication breakdowns, outdated committee structures, charters, and addressing these will improve transparency, efficiency, and the volunteer experience. The approach here was to define key problem areas, reference existing governance standards, those being the town bylaws, select board policies, and the town clerk's guidelines, as well as to highlight, actually, we're not going to do the case studies in this one. I kept it short for tonight's discussion. So here's the high-level challenges. Non-compliance with mandatory training. Boards and committee members are not hitting the required training. We do have the town clerk's guidelines that identify some of these, but they're not codified in our policies or the bylaws. And one of the recommendations that we'll see towards the end is to codify those requirements to give this body the ability to enforce compliance with those, as well as give the clerk something to point back to other than just the guidelines. We've got some lack of responsiveness to the clerk and town staff. And this is not meant as a hammer, right? Everyone has lives, people are volunteering for these things, but we want to make sure that we're meeting all of our requirements, that meetings are being posted properly, that meeting minutes are being reported properly, et cetera. A number of committees are having difficulty meeting quorum, and that's forcing cancellations. That can be either scope creep. We've had, in the past, we've had some committees where the committees were full. We had additional people that wanted to join, so we just added seats, which may now, looking back, may not have been the best idea. So governance framework, what we have are three kind of guiding documents are the town bylaws, the select board policies, and the town clerk's guidelines. The bylaws and charter are a legal framework. They're kind of what we base a lot of these powers in. Our select board policies are our codified ways of work and requirements. Again, I believe that these could use some updating to reflect and add teeth to the town clerk's guidelines. So recommendations, after having a number of discussions with some chairs, with the town staff, the first one is adding annual committee reports. So getting feedback from these committees to the select board. The majority of these committees we're discussing are chartered and appointed by the select board. So having some sort of feedback mechanism, instead of letting issues malinger for years or in some cases decades, having them come in, giving them an opportunity to tell us what they've been doing, give them a way to communicate with residents in this forum and let us know what they're doing, what they've done well, what their challenges are, et cetera. The second recommendation is updating appointment and removal policies. We do have ways right now to remove individuals from committees. That does not include the verbiage from the town clerk's guidelines, which I believe should be added in some capacity. Codification and onboarding training. I know that the town clerk's office does a great job of reaching out and chasing people down, making sure that we're getting everyone sworn in, that they're signing off on their documentation. But I think that, formalizing that a bit and making sure that it is the onboarding and training requirements are codified. And then regular charter reviews and sunset clauses. So through my analysis, I realized that we have the majority of our committees do not have sunset clauses, and that is something I believe every committee should have. So whether it's 5 years, 7 years, whatever it may be, there should be a period where the committee is reviewed. Does it need updates, et cetera? An example I'll use is the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. That is a committee that was designed for building out the open space plan. They have since, now they're about to enter their renewal of the plan, but for the past few years, they've kind of been operating adjacent to what their mission was. But that is a great group of individuals that does a lot of work, puts in a lot of time, goes above and beyond their meetings, and I want to make sure we're giving them the appropriate top cover and structural support to make sure that they can do what they need to do and they're empowered to do it. And then enhanced reporting and meeting documentation. So I know we have templates out there, but some sort of knowledge base for committee members to be able to go. Again, I've seen the town clerk's packet and it's awesome. And I know that our office is very responsive in responding to inquiries from whether it's chairs of committees or clerks of committees, but just somewhere that anyone can go and see like the templates, what the expectations are, all of the requirements, et cetera. Some sort of public knowledge base, I think, would not only help members that are on committees, but help people that may be interested in getting on committees understand what they're signing up for. I put together a draft implementation timeline. So from now until June 2025, as we discussed on that 429 meeting, no immediate changes to the appointment process. I think we want to be fair to all of these volunteers who are volunteering their time and not kind of surprise them with any massive changes. Instead, we should be collecting the data as we're doing, announcing that there will be policy and charter changes coming up, and then signal the new policies will be introduced within the coming year, so everyone has ample time to understand what's going on, make any changes they need, et cetera. Going from July next month to June of 26, that would be the working period. I would recommend some sort of working group to review the policy and see if there are any other changes needed, other modification of the town clerk's guidelines. This board can address some of the critical issues, refactor any charters that are in immediate needs, such as Economic Development Committee. We can look at vacancies, we can look at resizing, any of those immediate needs that need to be addressed, we can look at those in the next few months, gather that stakeholder input, and then adopt those new policies in early 26. And then make sure we're rolling out those training tools for spring of 26. That knowledge base, making sure that we have time for the IT staff to put together that SharePoint or whatever it may be, time for the clerk's office and any other town staff to draft and have their input on what those look like. And then FY27, so July 26 through June 27, apply the new policies to appointments. Everyone will have had ample time to understand what is going on. We would then enforce the training compliance. We can continue to enforce it along the way, but it would then be codified and there would be limited room for questions. And then begin the annual committee reporting system, enforce attendance and training requirements, and then review the committee charters on whatever that new schedule may be. So in conclusion, the tone here is partnership. There's lots of moving pieces. There's lots of volunteerism. There's lots of effort put in from the town manager's office and the town clerk's office to make all of this a reality. And I want to make sure that we are being very precise and surgical in the decisions that we're making and that we are following not only our bylaws, but we're updating our policies as required so everyone is aware of what is going on and there's no surprises. Again, these are all my personal thoughts, so I'm open to discussion. I'll hand it back to the chair. If there's any questions, there's no questions for me.
Thank you. I appreciate you putting this together. I also want to be able to have the opportunity to have the other board members to get their input and add to this. I'm going to give the town clerk's been staying here all day, so just to talk about your thoughts and what you believe would be helpful to your office as well.
So I really wanted to be here just to kind of be in my support role,
Yep.
where I am, and better understand ways that I can support the whole process. Right, so as Mr. Mackey had stated, I do a lot of work gathering the data, swearing in the members, making sure they get all of the statutes that I'm required to give them and follow up on the ethics training and so on and so forth. I post meeting notices, minutes. My website has a ton of information on open meeting law, trainings available. So again, I want to know how I can do better. What can I do to help support all of the boards and committees and you and what you do to make our community better. So that's really why I'm here, so.
Honestly, I mean, I'll open up to the rest of the board, but my thing is, I don't think you can do better. I think you're doing a wonderful job. This is not about the clerk's office. This is more about working as a board. It's us, of what we need to, we appoint people. And I had some frustrations on some of the things that get lacked. And every now and then, that's why I brought this up, is that I felt it was going long enough that, we have discussions about, missing minutes, missing this, or, lack of, having meetings because they're not meeting quorums, and we're doing the interviews, and a lot of times when we do these interviews, it's like, all right, somebody reapplied, here we go. It's like they're back on. And then not having the conversation with the chairs of each committee to see how they're working. Are these committees being productive? Are they following what was set out to be? And are they gone in a different direction? And we have some committees that honestly haven't met in quite a while. And is there a need for it any longer? The majority of the committees that we have in this town was resident-driven. And the residents came before us, either the last couple of years or many years before all of us were sitting on this board, and came forward and said, we need a bicycle and ped committee, we need a green committee, we want a beautification committee, we need economic development, we need other people that want to have their voices heard in this community, and they came and asked for us to form the committees. And it's wonderful because you have volunteers that come out, give their time, which we can't thank them enough for what they're doing, and going out and trying to make the community better by listening to the groups where we can't do it all on our own. The town only has so many employees, we only have so many elected officials, so volunteers on these committees are what we really need to go. And how can we support them while making sure that they're not frustrated, that they may be having meetings that may not feel their voices are being heard. So one of the things that I asked to do this year was the application process, to at least have them, a lot of times we send an email and saying, do you want to stay on? And that was it. But yet we don't know a lot about some of the people that are maintaining on the board, like what's their qualifications, why did they want to do it, really, of what's going on. And listening to, if you take a couple of seconds to say, the reason I want to be on this committee is because I want to do this to make the community better. That's kind of the purpose of having this all, and listening to what the mission is and what they're trying to do, and maybe us learning a little bit more about all the committees and what they're doing, and how we can support them as well. And also make your job easier to say, the clerk's office is asking you to do these type of things. If you're not doing it, don't expect us to give another vote to reappoint you. I mean, I think a lot of them do, the majority do it, but so you have to chase sometimes. And I want people to realize that it's not just the clerk that's going to be calling you. If you're coming to reapply next year and you didn't follow what you're supposed to do, you're most likely not going to get reappointed again. And so we're looking for people just to follow simple rules and obligations. They're not your rules and obligations. They're coming from the Secretary of State's office. And they're saying, and if we find that we're not listening, then, those are things that we could be left at fault for. And we're just asking people to do the simple trainings, basic information, and submitting minutes to all these meetings so we know what's happening. And like I said, it may be a thing where we are also meeting with the chairs every now and then. Maybe we have meetings where every now and then we ask a board or committee to come into our selectmen meeting and give us an update. I think that would be beneficial to this board, to hear a little bit of what they are going through or what they would like to see. And maybe there's funding cycles or things like that that we can apply for and work to help support them as well. Mr. Mackey put his perspective on it. I'd like to hear the rest of the other boards, the other members, to hear what but everyone pretty much sits on a board on some way or another, and I can't tell you I know everything that's happening on every other board. So having these conversations, I think, is beneficial, that we all, as a whole, know how we can support different boards and committees.
Yeah, I appreciate, Mr. Mackey, your presentation, and I actually agree with some of your items, but I like the best part is the working session. We can have 2 board members, and the time frame, it gives you enough time to coordinate this and maybe attend as put it on the agenda for a particular committee, that these 2 people are going to show up, we're going to go through with the training, this is what we're planning on doing, when's the last time you met, etc. I kind of like the working session idea, and having whoever's doing the working session attend some of these meetings, and be on the agenda.
So just to clarify, I love that idea as well. My recommendation was to schedule every committee to come in and report to us, so they kind of get to brief the entire board and have not every committee meeting is recorded, so actually being able to, present.
Well, the ones that meet frequently, we should be put on somebody should be put on the agenda.
I think that's a great addition. Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Mackey. If you could send this over when you.
Absolutely.
I want to dive into it. We've had conversations. I think some of these, the EDC, really, we've talked about with, once Mr. Curran got his feet wet, how do we see that working with the department? And, let's look at the mission statement. Does it need to be addressed? And that may be with not just that committee, might be some other committees. But to your question, Denise, I don't think you need to do anything different. You go on your website, everything is there. Like, you need to find something, if you're on a committee, it's there. Like, what you need to do. The training you need to do. They have to put the effort in for that. So then the committee is successful. So I know you're always chasing those ethics. It's something that we have to do. And if we can just have that timeline, that we could kind of maybe put a memo to the boards, and each committee can give it to their members and say, okay, get this on your calendar. Know that, okay, we have our calendar scheduled. This has to be done by this date. And you can't come to a meeting, you cannot participate in a meeting if you do not have it done by this date. And if you continue to not do it, we look at removing that individual from that committee. I think that's what we have to do as this board to make those committees successful. And then also look at quorums, because that's going to be, that's a tough thing. And as Mr. Mackey stated, everyone is a volunteer. And everyone's putting their time in, and we want to make sure that we're not wasting anyone's time. So, but I'm looking forward to going through that presentation. Thank you, James.
Mr. Russo?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know it was a good effort there. I guess a couple of things from my perspective. We meet as a select board 20 times a year, roughly, give or take. There's probably, I'm just looking on the website, maybe 12 or so committees that are maybe active. We could take a committee a month, right? And as part of our process, have them in here once. As a school committee member, we did that with our CPAC. We did that with our wellness committee. We did it with various committees that would come in and report to us annually, right? Talk about your goals. What did you achieve this year? What are your goals for next year? I do think it does help. And again, we're only 5 people. We have other elected boards in our community. And I get it that some boards or some committees, one particular elected official board is going to be more inclined and more in tune to that example, economic development is going to be something for us, right? Long-range space committee, maybe more school committee focused, et cetera, right? You can go down the list. I do think having elected official representation on those boards does help with some of the open meeting law violations, et cetera, et cetera. Just speaking from the facility committee, that certainly went a long way, because if you didn't have those elected, there's nobody that's going to help guide that. So I do think if that does help. I don't know, too, if there's any, I know there's a lot of things that talk about term of office in our bylaws, but I don't know if there's any boards or committees that really could benefit from those term limits. Again, we all have term limits as elected officials, but when we're talking about appointments, I mean, it's a one-year thing, and it just seems like it just happens, right? Like, there's no sort of recommitment there. Maybe a swearing in, okay, that's fine, but like, what's that commitment to say, okay, I'm still an active participating member? I agree, Denise, you do a fantastic job. There's nothing that I think that you need to be doing differently. I think we need to be maybe just holding ourselves accountable more as a board, and then ultimately holding these committees more accountable as well. So I agree, I like the idea of a working group. You know, and again, as a former school committee member, I mean, we had plenty of working groups, and we did that, what we needed to do to move the needle forward. I certainly would be open to participating in that from my perspective, so that's all.
Thank you.
All set.
In my perspective, like, I sat down with the town manager, I sat down with Paula in our office and Denise, and went through some of the issues in what we do for reappointments. And as to Mr. Russo's point, you know, a lot of people, we got an email, they want to remain in, but a lot of us may not have been here when some of the people were appointed, or may not know a lot about the people. When we appoint somebody new, we get an application, we know about them, or if we have multiple people that are applying for something, we go through and say, okay, why do you want to be, and we do interviews of why do you want to be on a committee. But then we do reappointments, and I want to maintain the people that are vested and want to remain on something, but I also want the ability to have new residents to know there's an availability that they're not locked out. That if somebody else is really interested in it, and the committee is the same 7 or 11 members year after year after year, that there's an ability for a new person to have a new voice, to come in and talk on these committees, and it's not like this is what it is and they're automatically going to get renewed every year. It may be, you know, we're not trying to replace people, but we want to have the ability that you have the ability to apply for that. And I don't want to have, well, these positions are already filled, so you can't be on that. I think we should have that ability to say, well, we have somebody new on here, and okay, you're on the committee, you know, why do you want to remain on it? And at least if you're going to remain on a committee, like, do a little bit of effort of making sure why you want to be on the committee and why you want to remain and why you think this is important. And like, we're not trying to break anything up. We're not trying to stop what anybody's doing, but I want to also make sure that any new voices aren't being discouraged, that they don't get a say in the thing. And we got to find that fine line of making sure that if we have people that want to be on, that they can get heard, or maybe find other committees. And that's what's happened in the past. We've had meetings where there wasn't an opening, and we say, well, you know what, you applied for 3, and we're going to put you on this because this one has plenty of openings. And, you know, and maybe there may be some committees where volunteers may want to try a new committee. You know, you never know. And so having that ability to at least have the conversation with these board members and open it up and say, every now and then you have to bring it out and just say, what are we doing here? Why are we reappointing people? How are those committees making our community a better place? And if they are doing all these things, you know, bring some accolades to them and bring them in here and say, you know, give us a little update so that not only do their small group know what goes on, but the community at large knows what they're doing. So I think this is a healthy conversation to have, and have everybody's voice can be heard, and make sure that the boards get the thanks for what they're doing as well.
Just one note on that. So I don't disagree with a lot of that, but The reason that only a email was required is because that's what the policy states, is the incumbent just needs to notify in writing. So that's why I'm big on the policy update, is because then everyone has a piece of paper, we can all be on the same sheet of music. So I agree with the concept, but I've heard from a few committee members who were concerned that they were being asked to reapply because they're like, well, I do all this work, like, am I not like doing what I need to do? What's the mistake? And these are people that are doing all their compliance training and meeting all the requirements, but then they got an email that said the chair of the select board would like you to reapply for these committees, and it's not required by policy. So we can do that, but we need to do it correctly and make sure we're updating the policy. And that's why I always point back to that. So we have everyone on the same sheet of music, and it's not an individual's concern, because your concern is valid, but we just need to cross the Ts and dot the Is so everyone knows what's going on.
Well, my concern is we have 5 members of this board, and people are reapplying, and they were appointed, and most likely the majority of this board never appointed them.
I call people if I'm going to reappoint somebody I don't know, reach out to
Well,
them.
but that's the thing, if we know a little bit about them, and we have applications and people coming in and say why they want to be on committees, I was asking them to submit something and give us something of why they want to remain on the committee. That was the goal, not to have them reapply. It's the goal to tell us why they want to remain on a committee and what they want to do. So that's the purpose of this. I mean, we're going to have this discussion. We're going to go through each application of what we're doing, but it'd be nice to know, having a little knowledge, and we don't have the time to do interviews on every single person and call everybody in for, if we have multiple people coming in on all these applications. So having something that gives us, we could have went to their original application when they submitted, but then I would have had the town clerk have to go dig them out, which may have been 7 or 10 years ago. So having them submit something that update the information of why, I think is beneficial. When they applied originally, they had to fill out an application. Updating it, I don't think is against our bylaws.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But
Yeah.
the policy clearly states what incumbents are required to do.
Yeah.
And the email they received was that the chair would like you to do this, which is absolutely fine as an individual member to do that. But I heard concerns from individuals who were asked to do that are concerned about their place on a committee and wanted to understand why. And I had nothing to point back to say, hey, this is our process or this is our policy. This is a deviation from our ways of work from at least my tenure. And I think we do owe it to these volunteers to have consistency and clearly defined expectations and ways of work.
Well, once again, we had an email went out, and I didn't receive one phone call from anybody giving me concerns of why, because I would have gladly answered them. I want to know why people are volunteering, why they're doing it. I want to give accolades, but I also want this board to know what the qualifications are, why they want to remain on the board, and they had to fill out an application in the first place. So instead of trying to dig through files to find their original application, just give some sort of summary of why they're doing it, and I don't think it's against that. So I think it's something that having them do, instead of just sending an email back saying yes, I would like to have a little bit on there of saying, the reason I want to remain on this committee is this, and that gives, when we're voting, you get a little bit of something of why you're appointing somebody. And I think that's important to refresh every now and then.
I think that could be easily done with the interest card.
Yeah.
You know, there could be an interest card for incumbents and an interest card for new individuals, or a box that you check you're an incumbent or you're a new applicant. And on that interest card, it's going to state some of your background. And so when those reappointments come up, they're on a sheet of paper, you can see, oh, this individual has, background in, outdoor open space activities, hiking, whatnot, trail management. That's a perfect opportunity for that individual, but I may not know what that person has because they've been on 8 or 10 years ago. And I think that's a real simple modification without really changing too much of the framework of what we're asking under the rules. So I think that would be a simple, a little checkbox change on the interest card that, I'm an incumbent. I would like to be, when we send that out, refill, fill out the application again. Here you go. And we get to look at what they're doing. So it might just be the fact that they're really interested in it. They might not have a background in it, but at least we know what their intent is.
So for this cycle, we have put together a few different things. Mr. Kratman asked us to reach out to all of the chairs to see if they were having challenges meeting the quorum, if they had anything that they wanted to share with the board regarding concerns that they had with the committee or assistance that they needed with the committee. And so the majority of the chairs did fill those out, and so that will be available to you all when you're considering your reappointments and new appointments.
And like I said, I don't want to create more work for you. I apologize for doing that, but like I said, I think every now and then doing an exercise like this makes it easier on us all. When if things get lax, then people just get, all right, I'm on it, I'm just going to send it in a yes, and I'm just going to do a renewal. Every now and then, it's nice to see a recommitment to what it
I
is.
appreciate the focus. I appreciate the presentation. Again, I want to be your partner and do my best to support you and all of the committee, so.
We can't ask for a better town clerk. I think you're doing a wonderful job, and your staff. They're doing a wonderful job. This is completely in support of your office and how we can make it easier and how we can help and support the committees as well. So I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would just like to thank Denise and also Paula for all the work they've done on all this. They've done a great job, worked together, collaborated as a team, and to serve the board, and I just wanted to recognize their efforts and the quality of their work.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight, Denise.
Mr. Chair, through you, just to kind of close the loop with this, Ms. Maggie, what outcome are you looking to come out of this tonight? Was just more just for presentation purposes?
Yeah, so step one was presentation purposes, and I am going to share this out. We'll get it out to everybody tomorrow. But what I would like to do is get it on the future agenda item, is kind of that review of that timeline, feedback, have a discussion on it, any changes people would like. But I do want to have a product that we can hold ourselves to. So, hey, we've come up with a plan. This is what we're going to do. We can communicate that out. It can be shared with the board and committee members. Everyone can be on the same page as far as expectations and timelines.
Thank you. Perfect.
All right, so you'll be sending that out to all of us? Okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank
Thank you,
you.
Denise.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks, Denise.
All right, delegation of authority of the town manager to execute deed for 283 Pleasant Street.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So this is, if you'll recall, back in October of 24, October 22nd, the board voted to purchase this land at 283 Pleasant, and they're going to pass papers pretty soon, and it just makes it logistically easier if the authority is delegated to be, because the board won't be available whenever the time they're passing papers is, and that's when the signing takes place.
All right, so you need a vote on this? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions or concerns from any board members?
If not, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Mr. Curran as the authority to execute the deed for 283 Pleasant Street.
Second.
Okay, I get a motion from Mr. Ryder, and a second by Mr. Mackey. All in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, that's passed. Town manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of the late hour, I'm just going to pop out some highlights on this, but I did actually want to do something that it wasn't on the report that I just noticed in my email, and I'll make sure we put it online. I received something from National Grid today about the gas pipeline inspection project scheduled for Monday, June 16th through Friday, June 20th. It's a routine inspection of the Tewksbury Lowell gas line. Will not disrupt customer service, but there will be workers out working on it, and there might be, some odors of gas and things like that over the week. So I want to put something out on social media so that people know that this is going on. And we'll put the details, also a phone number to call if anybody's really concerned. And if they do smell gas, they should call, better to be safe than sorry. So I just wanted that wasn't on the report, but I wanted to make sure I said that tonight and got it out on our social media pages. A couple of items off of the report that the public might be interested in. I did follow up with Tyler from the East Point, which is the Hillman battery storage, and cleared up some of the discrepancies between the two different public meetings. I think they were mostly context issues. I'm not going to get into the details, but I was satisfied that what's being represented is at least consistent, what he's represented to the town and what we heard at the public meeting we were at. That could there be an evacuation if there was a fire? The answer is always yes, because there's always a chance that there could be an evacuation, any fire. And I think that was conveyed, but that's not the likelihood in that situation. That's just one example. I'm not going to go through all of them, but CO, I'm not going to do that one. Just Whipple Road and Pine Street, it's been brought up by a couple of people, and also seems to be some consensus around local town officials that intersection is dangerous. So I did pull the reports for the last 10 years. There's been 96 accidents up there over the last 10 years, 47 injuries. Now, I don't know if they're minor injuries or what, but there were 47 injuries. No fatalities, but so that is a problem intersection, and I'm going to have engineering do a study to see if that warrants signalization or whatever type of mitigation needed to help improve that. There is a sidewalk project that is going to impact that intersection, I believe, in a positive way, because it'll constrict that intersection somewhat. So that will help, but beyond that, I think we need to do a study of the signal, of whether there should be signalization or what type of control of traffic should be done there. Again, Whipples and Rogers, this came up, the board brought this up before, about cutting back overgrowth, so they were down there with the cutters doing Whipple Road and Rogers Street. And so I just wanted to report back to the board that they are out there cutting back that overgrowth. And just as to notice to the public that I think I got a call. I think you and I, Mr. Chairman, had a conversation about possible dirty water last week. And what's going to start to see happening now is that there's an increase in water usage because the summer is coming on. People are using the irrigation. They're filling their pools. That sometimes causes disturbance in the water. So we noticed some of this because it was on social media, but I would urge the public, if you have dirty water, don't post it on, you can post it on social media, but call us and tell us, because we don't know unless it's being reported to us directly. And it's helpful to know if there's dirty water, because, if we keep track of that data, it helps us to understand different trends in the system. So I wanted to talk about that, and it's just 24 Pleasant Street, Sycamore Hall. The past papers, that property sold, so some changes will be happening on that site soon. I think they planted a tree today out there to replace the one they cut down. Let's see what else. Town hall. There's going to be a town hall at the high school, Tewksbury Memorial High School, on June 16th. Congressman Moulton is coming out to do a town hall there. And I think he's going to meet some local officials prior to that. And I just got something from his office that he wants to, I think they're going to come out because he was integrally involved in that project down in Livingston with the I think it was $2.4 million. So he's coming out for that and the town hall. And that is, I think that's going to start at 6 o'clock at the high school on June 16th. Just to report out on pickleball courts, I know that I think Select Board Member Ryder had asked about this. So Mike Cardiff with GCG Associates informed us that the survey will occur on Monday, June 9th, which was earlier this week. And then we'll be putting out an RFP, putting out to bid. And Vinny will be working on getting Musto Lighting in here to start the process of ordering lights. Musto's done all the lights here in town. They're the go-to people for sports lights. So, see if there's anything else here. I think that's it. That's all I have, unless you have any questions about anything I didn't touch on, or. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have any questions of the town manager?
I have none. This time.
I have just a quick one. I appreciate your work. I know a lot of us have called you on different things that we're working on. But like Whipple and Pine, I know a lot of us have heard about that. But what I was thinking afterwards is that, we're looking at the numbers, and because we're looking at the numbers, I know you have a meeting with the section heads. So maybe you could have a conversation with our police in DPW to have to figure out, like, are they working in conjunction to keeping track of the high incidents that we're having? So the police department probably has a record of, we've had so many crashes at this location. Are they having conversations with our engineering and our town DPW to maybe say, maybe we need to look at this rather than wait for a problem to happen, and to have so many things to look at the numbers, on a either yearly basis, or to say, here's the top 5 areas that we're having in our community that we're having problems with. Is there something that we need to come forward with? Is there something that the town has to come up with an idea, or maybe investing some funding into? And it could be simple as cutting back brush. It could be something as adding additional signage, or it could be something that we may need a signal out there. But I would like to have more, conversation about that, and to see if you could get information, if the DPW and police are working to get those numbers together.
So you're asking me generally, is there coordination and collaboration between DPW and the police department about high accident incident intersections around town, basically, right?
And do they have any recommendations to us? Like, they may know about it, the DPW may know, like, hey, listen, we need something out there, but they don't have the ability to put the funding.
I can answer that question. I can answer that question and get back to you.
Yeah.
But I do, traditionally, what happens is the roadway management plan is developed because it's based on the data on accident histories and usually what happens is the police go to the DPW and say, or specifically to the town engineer, and they say, look, we keep getting calls on this site. So I will just confirm that process, I believe that process that you're asking about is actively taking place on a regular basis, but I will confirm that for you.
Well,
Get back to you.
This location,
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I've seen the police department post something out, we have an accident here, we have an accident here, and residents are noticing. So that seems to be something where it just draws attention to
Why wasn't this on?
why haven't we done anything?
Yeah.
And are there other locations, like, if we're focused on the top 5 in like an area, is there something more this board can do, or the planning board, or whatever department may be able to do to look at and support, to make sure that if there's some sort of safety concern, that we're doing everything possible?
Okay.
And then at least let the residents know that, we're looking into this. So like you said, you want residents to call, if we're having dirty water, well, we have residents calling about accidents, like who are they calling? Who are they making reports to, and how that information is being, acted on.
Yeah.
So,
I do know that, obviously, because that's where I got the information from the police department, that they have a pretty good database of all the accidents, and they show up at most of them, so, unless somebody screwed after the accident, but they show up, so they have pretty good data on all the accidents. But I understand what you're saying, because it was the first thought in my head, if this was an issue, why isn't it already in the plan? So I'll see what I can find out. Maybe there's a litmus test that didn't reach, that they use, and maybe we have to ask why, so I'll find out and I'll report back to the board.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. What do we got next? Town council invoice.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, let me read that for you. Okay, so the town council invoice is from April 16th through May 15th, and it's a total amount of $7,990 paid to our town council, which is Feely and Brown.
Motion to approve town council invoice from April 16th through May 15th, 2025 in the amount of $7,990.
Second that.
I got a motion from Mr. Mackey, second. Mr. Holland, all those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That's approved. Mr. Curran, do you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you very much.
All right. All right, I'm going to go to our clerk, and we got approval of minutes.
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to approve the April 9th, 2025 minutes of the Select Board.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, board member reports. Mr. Holland?
Yes, I have one thing. CPA committee met last week, trying to come up with some projects, and the good news is that we had a return of, what was it, $174,000 for projects that have been completed, and they didn't use all the money. So it's $174,000 back in our favor. That's all I have.
Mr. Mackey?
Thank you. Had an Economic Development Committee meeting last night. We were able to get a quorum, which was good. We had some good discussion. We were able to approve some backlog of minutes, and the committee is still seeking some clarity on its charge. So that's something that Mr. Ryder and I have discussed. We're going to get with Mr. Curran and have a follow-on discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Ryder?
All set, Mr. Mackey covered that.
Mr. Russo?
So I got the welcome email from NIMCOG, so we'll be starting those meetings, I believe it's next week. And then, Mr. Curran, just on the Long Range Space Committee, I know we talked about with the warrant article that was approved, so obviously we have to wait till funds are available July 1st, et cetera, but I just want to maybe get with you at some point shortly to just figure out next steps with pushing that forward after the 1st of July.
So I did meet with Brenda and Dave.
Perfect.
And we are moving ahead, getting an RFP drawn up, and then we'll bring that forward to the committee.
Okay.
But we've started that process.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, I just have one, if
Yep,
you
go
don't mind. I just want to say, last Friday evening was the high school graduation. Congratulations to the class of 2025. I will thank Principal Long for taking making a very risky decision to hold it outside. And thank you to the telemedia staff for filming that. It was a great event. The rain held out, and it was a great night for all. So thank you, everyone that was involved.
And actually, on that note with Tewksbury Telemedia, because we did have some residents voice their concern about the Memorial Day filming of the parade, and it was being filmed this year. So appreciate that feedback. So
Yeah.
thank you.
How long was the whole ceremony?
Hour 20?
Yeah, about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, you beat us. It was an hour.
It went, they sped through the names, and I will say, and I've been there for a few years. I was fortunate, one of my boys graduated, and I will tell you the energy, and I know Mr. Russo and Mr. Crabbe, the energy there was amazing. It got very dark, and
Pulled it off.
it pulled it off, and then all of a sudden it got nice and bright for everyone to get their photos. So it was a great night overall.
Yeah.
They didn't know if it was a flash of somebody's camera or the
Or
lightning and thing. And we're all handing the diplomas like this, like, speed, let's get these going out. But it went out well. For my board, LRTA, we met, it's always the last Thursday of the month. They're talking about continuing free rides. The one thing that's good news is that the Tewksbury route is always in the top 3 of ridership. And because of that, they're trying to talk about adding additional ridership. One of the things I asked them to do, talking to residents, was trying to put an early morning shuttle on, because in the past, if you got on the bus, you couldn't get into Boston by 9 o'clock. So they have provided that, so they put an earlier ride on, and because of that, our numbers have increased even more. So it was productive for them, and we're looking at other ways of improving ridership and getting vehicles off the road and finding what we can do to benefit the community. And that's all I have. Motion to adjourn?
To adjourn?
Got a motion from Mr. Russo, second by Mr. Ryder. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.